Hi friends, I'm Shauna. Welcome to the channel and welcome to another video. Today's video is so exciting to me because I am kicking off my 2023 channel project. I love a channel project. 2020 was the no-buy year. 2021 was I don't know what year. The have no shit together year. 2022 was the year of contentment. In 2023, we're going to be continuing the year of contentment. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. Right now I'm doing no buy January. And while I'm having fun with it, I don't plan to have this year be a no buy year. We're still going to have a contentment focused year. If you have not seen the original video, I encourage you to go watch it. I will link it in the cards, in the description, because that really talks about how my contentment year is different from a no buy or low buy year, why it's important to me, and really talking about the structure and the goals of that project. And so if you're interested in starting your own contentment year, that would be a good place to start. And then you can follow up with this video. I'm going to be talking about what worked and what didn't my contentment year, and basically how I'm evolving the project and where it's going to go from here. Because there are some things I loved and some things that just did not work. But also I feel like I've changed and I've achieved some successes in the project. So we're kind of building on it and hopefully working more and doing more of the things that worked. That's kind of the roadmap for the video. A question that I, floated around was, would a no-buy year be better? Do I want to continue with the contentment year? So there's three reasons why I'm not going to be doing a no-buy for this year, or why it's not going to be a no-buy year. The first and main reason, which I mentioned in the original video, is that I want to decenter stuff from my life. We'll talk more about that as the project goes on, but a no-buy and even minimalism, those are both really stuff-centered projects. My time and energy, while I wasn't shopping, was still really filled with stuff, and one of the things I mentioned in the original video as well was that a no-buy asks you, how can I not buy stuff? The contentment year asks, how can I be content with my stuff? And also, the no-buy year kind of stops and starts with stuff, or starts and stops with stuff. But the contentment year starts with stuff, but continues on to other things. And I really found that it's the other things that help me to be more appreciative of my life, but also help me not shop. And it's easier to not buy stuff when I'm doing other things and I'm living a life that's happier and more content. And small tangent here, how many times or how many people out there have said that their goal in life is to be happy or to be content? That was me. I think a lot of people want that in their life. But how much time and energy have you spent in figuring out what does happiness or contentment look like in my life, and also working towards achieving that? I didn't spend very much time or energy trying to accomplish that goal. And the contentment year really makes that the center of focus. The contentment year or the contentment project has a lot more room for experimentation and novelty. And the contentment year and the concept of the contentment project, so fulfilling to me, and one of the best things about the project, just in terms of actually doing it. And then the third reason is preparing my relationship with money and or shopping. There's still work to do there, and we'll talk about that later. No buys make saying no the default. And while I absolutely did need practice in saying no, being able to make smart financial choices, like being able to manage a budget, being able to have money and not spend it all, in essence, is something that is extremely important to me. And that's something that the no buy doesn't do, because when you're not buying stuff, you're not really learning to manage money properly or manage money in a way that's smart or healthy for you. And I didn't do a budget in 2020. So I could have done that, but I didn't. So you could learn some of that in a no buy year. But I didn't feel like the no buy provided me with the opportunity to become responsible with managing my money. And end of sentence. So those are some of the reasons why I'm choosing not to do a no buy year. A no buy can absolutely, and is still something I believe to be a tremendous resource that you could use at any time in a given year, but not one thing I want to have my sole focus on. So as a very small refresh, the year of contentment in 2022 was designed to address the following things. This is what I established as my goals. Change the way I shop in terms of frequency, money, and enjoyment. Spend more time offline living my life. Prioritize people and experiences. So turn as much as I can into an experience to enjoy my life and the mundane. Prioritize the appreciation of my things and figure out how to be content. And then minimize the number of things I bring in and the number of things I own. My goals have shifted since 2022, and we'll talk about that in where the project is going. But I want to have those original intentions at the top of mind when I talked about what didn't. And there's a lot that actually did work. The Contentment Project had 3 main categories: who I am, what I have, and where I'm at. I really like the choice of those 3 categories because they were broad enough to give me a breadth of choice and projects to work on for each. And in my mind, they were fairly distinct. And I overall loved the concept of the Contentment Project as well. All of these things are here to stay for 2023. The Contentment Project, as I had mentioned, was probably one of the things I loved most about the Contentment year. The first 6-ish months of the year were really focused on the what I have component of things. I'm glad I did focus on this category, the what I have category first, because out of all 3 of the categories, not only was this the most familiar to the work that I was doing in 2022, or before that in my Nova year and all of that kind of content, so it was easier to slide into because it was familiar. It was also the category that required the least amount of internal work. I'm not saying it doesn't require any, but just knowing what the other 2 categories needed, I was not prepared to handle that in 2022. Like, just mentally, I was not prepared for that. And so it did kind of, in a way, provide an ease into the project to make it easier. Or I guess not easier, but it prepared me to tackle some of the harder things later on. My favorite projects that I did last year were in the what I have category. I tried the minimalist makeup bag. I did the men's game earlier on last year. Well, that was not a success. That taught me so much. So I still see that as a win in my book. I read a lot of books on minimalism and decluttering. If you were here for the Marie Kondo video last year, that was so much fun. I project pan. I started Low Buy Bingo last May. I made seasonal makeup bags, which is a very fun routine every quarter. I've rearranged my Natasha Denona palettes several times. Like, I've started a swatching series on my channel. There's just been a lot of truly fun projects in this category. And in 2022, I spent a grand total of $280 on makeup. This has been the best makeup spending year of my life, like literally my adult life, or since I got into makeup in 2014, 2015. That is a very proud accomplishment, and about $100 of that was for fun, a for fun purchase that I actually budgeted for. Everything else, like roughly $150 worth of stuff, those were all 1-for-1 replacements. I think my numbers for how much I bought really are a testament to the effectiveness of doing other things and having other things be integral to my life, because I thought about makeup a lot less than I did in the last couple of years. Empties Trackers was a great addition this year. I revamped it. I showed it in a recent video. I love the star rating. It just kind of made tracking those things really fun. And I do think that my empties total is the highest it's been in a while. I also loved the hobby exploration that I've done this year. I really leaned into hobbies and found some that I love. I found art journaling, watercoloring. I also spent some time just coloring an old mandala coloring book that I had. Just like really so fulfilling, but also music reading and running, the smash hits of the year. Like just knowing where I was able to get in like literally one running season is incredible. And I think that like the reason why I was so successful was because one of my main focuses was not like losing weight or even like getting healthy. I mean, running is good for your heart and heart health. That's a great thing. But just the grittiness and scrappiness of it all was really something that pushed me through. All right, so what didn't work? I did not like the monthly updates. I carried those on for roughly 4 or 5 months at the beginning of the year, and they were very stuff-centered. I was spending like half the video talking about all the stuff I bought. It just put stuff at front of mind and continuously for a good quarter of the year. And it also really felt like I was justifying my purchases because I felt, and then I also just felt a lot of guilt about a lot of just buying stuff. And it was bad for me mentally. I conceptually really liked the tracker that I created, the stuff in and out tracker. And I like that theoretically. In practice, I hated it. I was too obsessed with stuff. I was too focused on stuff and it gave me a lot of anxiety. And I was justifying and doing mental gymnastics to justify literally a $5 purchase, which is insanity to me. Nobody asked for that. Like nobody asked for this update or that, or for the project to look at all like that. Nobody asked me to talk about my stuff. So that was my own fault. And that's not coming back this year. The contentment projects became less clear throughout the year. Like just in terms, probably around July, they became less clear. And part of that was because I found by that point a lot of stuff that worked. And so I wish I just spent a little bit more time reflecting at the mid-year point to really think about what worked, what didn't. And so I wouldn't feel this pressure to make up contentment projects or kind of carry them throughout the year because I had reached what I felt like were the tools to be content in certain areas of my life. I just needed to follow through on that. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have. So I found the things that worked in some categories. How do we maintain them and, use them to our advantage? At the beginning of the year, I had ideas of what would work for contentment, but I didn't fully know in reality how things would shake down. And so as I progressed into the year, I do wish I took some time to think about the goals I had at the beginning of the year, which in reality weren't super fleshed out, but that's fine because you don't know what you don't know. So when I eventually learned what the contentment project was going to look like or how it was shaping up, I wish I just spent some time to rejig my goals, re-flesh out my goals or my intentions and spend more time so I could get clearer because I did not really go in and flesh those out or change them or rejig them. I did that within the first couple of months, but then as I have mentioned, the first couple of months was really stuff-centered still, and I really would have benefited from updating my intentions and goals to match the reality of what I was learning. I did love the wish list that I created last year and I made some great updates to it. And I would really like to find a way to be consistent with that because that fell off around mid-year point as well. So I have this really great resource, but it's useless if I don't use it. So I'm hoping to find new ways to make that a regular part of my weekly or daily routine. The last one is just about the reality of the project. And it's really hard to focus on more than one category at a time. And if I want to make meaningful change, then I can't overwhelm myself with 12 different projects all at once. And when it comes to the where I'm at and the who I am, I think only one of those can be the focus, and then I can sprinkle in some what I have projects, here and there. And I didn't really consider the balance of those things when I started the year. And I also think that there's an important question. Did my project help me become a more content person? The answer is a resounding yes. I really feel like I've done a lot of mental work this year and just creating a mental space that is more kind and compassionate and more like fun to be in my own head, stop being my worst critic. I really feel like a lot of my own unhappiness and discontent was just coming from myself and the mental space that I was living in every day. Like, we live in the physical world as much as we live in our mental world. And a lot of the times our reality is constructed by our own perceptions of ourselves and the world around us. And what creates a lot of those perceptions is how we think and perceive ourselves, how we talk about ourselves, how we talk or think about other people. And that has changed a lot this year, but that's not something that you could necessarily see. But what I think people have noticed and what I get comments on all the time, or not all the time, fairly regularly, people have said, wow, Shauna, you seem so much happier this year. Or like, people have been able to see a shift in me, which I think is kind of crazy that people can actually see it. Like, regular viewers can actually see it. I mean, it is true. I don't want to portray this year as this beautiful, magical sunshine, rainbows, butterflies. When shit has hit the fan, I've been able to be kinder to myself, have overall healthier coping mechanisms. And I've also, at least those moments also taught me where I would like to improve. So here is how I feel like I've changed, in addition to some of the things I just mentioned. I feel like I'm kinder to myself. I am making a real effort to enjoy my life and my stuff. I am a much more grateful person. I am making strides to having a fulfilling career. I'm making efforts to stop people pleasing. I have found healthier coping mechanisms. I have found healthy outlets and things that I consider joyful hobbies. I think like there's so much more, but those are some of the top ones. And I think I learned a lot about habits this year that have just served me. And that was a great lesson. So there is still a lot of work to do. And that is exciting to me instead of daunting. But like, I've seen just how much difference 1 year can make. It makes me more excited to continue the project, to see. It just makes me so excited to see where I could be in another year. If you're somebody who wants to go on a contentment project, I think facing your traumas, your demons, and by that I just mean things that, like the negative way you talk to yourself, or the negative beliefs you have about yourself, or just maybe decisions that you've made that you regret. A lot of our past and how we feel about it and the narratives that we were told or sold to us frame how we think about ourselves and the world around us today. And unless we acknowledge or figure out where they come from, or even acknowledge that they exist at all, I think it blocks our ability to be happy. And some of the narratives I told myself, I fundamentally believed were true, but were ultimately holding me back. They were beliefs that were not serving me, that I absolutely had the ability to control and to change. And those are things that I think are necessary to change and are necessary to deal with in order to be a happier or content person. Even sometimes knowing where it came from, you're like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I know it, fine. How do you change it? I think that knowing that the thing is blocked, that there's this area in your life or this idea that's not true. Like, as an example, I'm not capable of X, Y, or Z. Yeah, I'm not capable of achieving my goals, or like, my life isn't special. Sure, I know where that came from, but if you don't even really know the thought processes that you have or the way you think, that those are narratives and not truths, then you can't change them. And the narratives that we tell ourselves really do block our ability to be happy. And I'm not trying to victim blame anybody here. There's a great saying that I've heard, which goes along the lines of, what happened to you is not your fault, but healing from it is. And even if we're not talking about trauma, we're talking about narratives, which could be a result of trauma. The same thing applies. I'm going to keep going because otherwise I could talk about that forever. I just think about where I could have been if I didn't do this project. Like, I lost myself for so many years, and I think a lot of you are in that same place. I developed strength, purpose, and passion this year. You know, I'm a fundamentally different person mentally than I was a year or 2 years ago. And I had support doing this, like my partner, number one, and some friends too. So now let's talk about what's to come in 2023. Where is the contentment year headed? Conceptually, there's a lot of it's going to be staying the same. You know, we're going to view the project in the 3 main categories, and we're going to have contentment projects throughout the year. A major structural difference between this year and the past would be that there will not be monthly updates. I will bring quarterly spend updates, mostly focusing on the areas that I will mention here, which would be beauty and fashion, most likely. And then I might potentially bring just like numbers, not a rundown of how much I spent within like a fund money budget. You know, I spent this much this year in this quarter, and maybe some thoughts on it, but I will not be, here's everything that I bought and doing this tally, and we're only going to do it 4 times in a year. I'll talk more about that after I mention the goals. So on the screen now, you're going to see my 2022 contentment project goals. And now here are the goals for this year. I would like to change my emotional spending coping mechanism, really put in some work for that. And in particular, how that relates to shopping for clothes. I want to start saving up money for a down payment on a house. That's going to be like a 2 to 4 year project. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's not going to happen in a year. So we just start this year. I really want to be a much more diligent budgeter to really give me freedom. And also, if I want to save up money for a down payment, it's not going to happen unless I'm being intentional about it. So the budgeting is going to help with that. I want to really romanticize my life and enjoy the mundane. I want to continue my gratitude practice and being grateful for who I am, the life I'm choosing to live, the wonderful people in my life, and all the things that I have. I want to prioritize the things and people in my life that bring me happiness, passion, and a zest for life. This includes things like my partner, hobbies like friends, family, downtime, things like that. I want to create a space that brings me joy and pride to live in, prioritize the appreciation of my things, and continue working on self-confidence. You know, really working on this belief that I deserve the things that I want in life and that I'm capable of achieving these things. I think some of these, we're going to just break down a couple of these things to really talk about how, like, what this project will look like. Those are the higher level goals. And let's talk a little bit about some of the more stuff-oriented ones first. I talked about clothing spending and emotional shopping in relation to that. 2023 is going to finally be the year where I tackle my shopping habits for clothes. Now, my no-buy did change my spending overall, and so my shopping for clothes has changed with that. But before my no-buy year, my clothing shopping was just as bad, if not worse, than my makeup spending. It's still like the one area of my life that does not feel, when I think about makeup and makeup spending, how I view makeup is dramatically different than my pre-no-buy life. Like, there's no part of me now that actually wants to spend the way that I used to spend, or that, like, even the way that I lust after things is different. Over the last 3 years, I've worked really hard on reducing my makeup spending, and just like, not just reducing the spending. What I'm trying to communicate here is changing my mindset. I've done that, but I have not brought that same energy to clothes. And clothing is different because my 99% of my emotional spending or my destructive spending happens with clothes. It's time to change it. It's time to bring into focus and bring the attention to my clothing part of my life or my shopping habits. Bring that time and attention like I did with makeup. And I know this is probably going to be harder, honestly, because if it's linked to my emotional spending, but we're going to go for it. Like, we're going to do it. For me, the selling factor was this one thing. In the past, I have said that if going on a no-buy feels dramatic and you would think like, why the heck would I do that? Like, I don't want to do that. That is completely undesirable and it means I can't buy stuff. I had that feeling with makeup. I don't feel that way about makeup now. If I was to go on a strictly no makeup or a strict no buy just for makeup only, I'd be like, yeah, like bring it on. I would be so ready for that, so excited. And I knew that I could crush it. Just even the thought about going on a clothing no buy, my mind is like, no, that is not fun. That does not sound like a good idea. That just sounds horrible. And I absolutely don't want to do that at all costs. That for me is the real signal that something's got to change. I might just bring a full video talking about my relationship to clothing and like how I plan to really tackle that, kind of in the way that I've talked about makeup. If you're interested, let me know. So let's talk about the budget for a second. I have created a budget for my whole life, and I linked it just a couple minutes ago to saving up money for a down payment on a house. It's just a goal I had back in 2020. It fell off for a couple of years. We're back on it. I'm not going to achieve it without being intentional. So that is a big motivator for the budget. I have plans to help motivate me for the budget, but hopefully saving up for a down payment will be that extra icing on the cake. I've talked about how your no buy isn't a punishment. I have held that exact view with budgeting. I've kind of viewed it as a punishment, and I would love to change my perspective on that and really embrace this idea that my budget is an opportunity to save for this thing that really matters. And so it's really going to be the tool that helps me make my goal a reality. So while I know that deep down, I'm hoping to make that connection more top of mind. I do have a budget for my entire life, like all of my categories, but when it comes to this video and this channel, there's a couple of things that matter, or that I would talk about on the channel, I should say. I have something called a base budget for makeup and skincare. My base budget is $150 for makeup for the whole year, and skincare, which is $225. By skincare, I also mean personal care products, like your skincare, body care, shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, all of that kind of thing. The budget is designed to take care of the bare minimum of my necessities. Anything else on top of the bare necessities are going to come from my YouTube earning. My base budget does not have an entry for clothes, and that is because those are going to come from my YouTube earnings as well. My YouTube earnings is going to cover, or I've kind of conceived it as like a fun money category. So when I get paid for my paycheck, I can basically save every dime that I can. Like, there's no fun money in there. There are a couple of categories in there that aren't literally just food and, your mortgage or your rent, that kind of stuff. There's things like some costs for the home and other things, but like you need toilet paper, like you need cleaning supplies. I've taken out as much of what could be deemed excess as possible to put it into a fun money category that is going to come from YouTube earnings. And if I make, if I have a higher income in a particular month, then I'm going to, of course, save that. I'm kind of conceiving my fun money to be around $200 a month. But if you think about all the things that it's going to cover, all of my clothing purchases for the year, book purchases, anything really for my home beyond like cleaning supplies and toilet paper, stuff like that. So if I want new organizing containers for my home, I have to purchase it with my fun money. And I'm calling it fun money, but it's like covering a lot of things, Even if I want to make a replacement, like my headphones are on their last legs, have to come from fun money. If my lamp breaks, has to come from fun money. It's covering a lot of things. And there is some flexibility in there. So if
if there's something that happens that needs to be replaced, I can, of course, use a larger amount of fund money. But so it would mean that I wouldn't dip into my savings and I wouldn't dip into my paycheck. And it allows me to save some of my YouTube paycheck as well. I'm hoping that the structure will provide me with some flexibility to rein in my emotional spending, because I will have flex money, I will have fun money to play with, but I'm hoping that it will allow me to prioritize in ways that I haven't before. So if I do want to buy something for my spring wardrobe, I'm going to have to prioritize the other things on my list, or maybe push them off to another month. It will also mean that I won't know like the full fund money budget or what the full YouTube earnings are until the end of the month. So that means that I'll have a full month to really consider purchases and also how much of the fund money that I would like to spend. So let's say one month I make $500 and I really want my fund money to be around $200, but there's a replacement that happens. I could, maybe make it $300. Not that I want to do that, but there is some flexibility there. And if there happens to be an emotional spending moment, it will be much less disruptive because it's not coming from my paycheck. You know what I mean? Let me convince you 2 videos and 1 week, 1 palette videos will hopefully be monthly staples on my channel to help me really appreciate the stuff that I have, and also hopefully help me be less interested in buying stuff because I'm using what I have and appreciating it and spending this time and energy on this kind of content. I do have other projects for this category, like completing the curated closet. I bought that book several years ago, probably in 2019, definitely before my no buy. And I never used it, never worked through it. And so with clothing shopping being a really big focus for the year, I'm hoping that working through that book will be like a fun project and help me appreciate my wardrobe even more. I do hope to bring Low Buy Bingo back and use that as a way to earn my fun money. And also, I think to help me with that, instead of having a free space on the board, having that middle square be, like complete the budget every month, that would be a way to like make sure I'm doing it. So for the Who I Am category, there's a couple of things that I would like to do here, as I've already mentioned at the top of the video. I do want to continue my gratitude practice that has been phenomenal this year. And I also bought the 1 line a day journal, and it's been on my desk and I've been using every morning, and it's really been integrated into my routine. I mean, we're only like 9 or 10 days in now, so there's only so much that can be said for that, and if I'll continue it in the long run, but so far so good. A main goal for this category is romanticizing my life and enjoying the mundane. I'm hoping that by romanticizing my life, I'll be able to enjoy the mundane more. Last year, I bought The Artist's Way, and I hope to work through that this year and as a way to romanticize my life, and that will be a contentment project all on its own. And appreciating the mundane was not something I got super far on last year. Of course, there was some progress, but not as much as I thought. And when I was filming when I was putting together my end of the year reel on Instagram, I realized that how I was conceptualizing my life still needed some work. In that reel, I wrote about how I wasn't savoring the everyday moments. It's just another walk in the neighborhood. It's just another pizza night in. So these things are true, but I have lumped some pretty special things into these categories, into the mundane. To me, the mundane is everyday life. The getting up, the drinking coffee, commuting, eating your lunch. They are not date nights with your partner or night outs with your friend. Things like that. I have been framing a lot of my life as not special or mundane. And I'm not trying to say that in the moment I didn't think that these things weren't special, but in the aftermath, when I talk about appreciating my life or appreciating the mundane, I need to really acknowledge just how much specialness happens in my life instead of being like, oh yeah, it's all mundane, Like, no, I went to a beautiful garden on my birthday. That is a special activity. That's fun. That's exciting. I went to Ottawa with my partner for a handful of days. That's exciting. That's special. And really making sure that I remember and I emphasize the specialness and the incredible moments and opportunities that happen every year in my life. I got to see Lara 4 or 5 times this year. That's incredible. Like, seeing your friends are not mundane. They are incredible moments that happen in our lives. I am holding myself back from enjoying my life and appreciating my life simply because I'm qualifying these amazing special moments as mundane. When you think parts of your life aren't special, these are your own beliefs. That's not reality. This is the framework that you're creating for your life. And this is different from appreciating your life, because while I appreciate these moments and I can say, yes, they were great, or I can be grateful for them, I wasn't accepting their specialness and the fact that so much specialness is happening in my life every year. If you have any idea about the romanticizing of my life or your life, or any ideas for this category, I would love to hear them. I have some more ideas that you might have seen if you watched my Know by January week 2 video, that tour of Notion. I do have some ideas in there, but this is the category I feel kind of the most stumped on. So all ideas welcome. For other hobbies, I would like to make sure that I'm doing one hobby related thing a week and maintaining that and making sure I carve out time to do those things. This is already proving to be a bit of a challenge. And I say that, yes, we're in week 1, or we're entering week 2 of the year, or we are in week 2 of the year. So there's more of the year to go. Why I'm saying this is a challenge is because you should be the most motivated at the beginning of the year, or I am. And so if I'm already finding it challenging when it's most motivating, there's some work to do for the rest of the year when motivation is even lower. And the last thing for where I'm at is creating a space that brings me joy and pride to live in. I have regularly scheduled Mondays to hopefully help with that, as well as some cleaning and organizing and decluttering things to hopefully help with that. But this is so important to me because I constantly get caught up in the compare and despair with my home all the time. I feel like my place isn't good enough, like it's not aesthetic enough, and I've made excuses to not film things because of these beliefs. And this, I just need to get over myself, honestly. While my gratitude practice can help with that mindset of appreciation, I just think that there are some other attitude shifts that need to come with it, not just projects to help me make it more aesthetic or more user-friendly, or spending time cleaning to help appreciate your stuff. I just overall find it I'm a little outraged, honestly, by the lack of gratitude I have for my own space. I have a place to live in. I have a roof over my head. I have clean water. I have hot water. I have heat. I have lights on. I can afford my place. Doesn't matter what freaking Kelly on Instagram's place looks like. Good for her. Great that she can have this place, but can she even afford it? And also, that's not my life. That's not my life. So feeling constantly less than in one area of my life can have ripple effects to others. I felt some type of way about some of the furniture that I had, but when I consider the context in which I bought it, I live on my own as well. I need to remember that living on my own is a true, it could have almost never happened, and living on my own is something that means a lot. And it's one of those things that I think you can easily forget. That's the end of the video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed watching and hearing about where the Contentment Project is going for 2023. I loved hanging out with you today, and I would love it if you would subscribe to catch more updates in the Contentment year, more updates in Know by January, and to catch more fun videos coming your way, because there's some fun ones coming up. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.